to our webinar on best practices for the performance evaluation process. This is the fourth in a series of webinars that the Labor and Employment and Human Resources Practice Group at the Wagner Law Group will be offering. By the way, the next webinar is Preparing for the Unexpected, 10 Things Managers Need to Know, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the webinar. This presentation will last about 30 minutes. The slides from the webinar will be available on the Wagner Law Group website. Let me introduce David Gabor of counsel with the Wagner Law Group. David is a recognized leader in the employment law field, and he represents clients in litigation, the negotiation and drafting of contracts, handling compliance issues, the creation of corporate infrastructure, the drafting of policies, training of employees, and leading companies towards organizational excellence. David was recently selected by the Advisory Board of the Litigation Council of America for a fellowship in the Society. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you, Barbara. And it's that time of year. The days are getting shorter. People who live in the north are already getting cold weather. Some people have already had snow. Thanksgiving is just around the corner, so naturally it's the right time to be thinking about performance evaluations. Performance evaluations are one of the tools used by organizations to try to make sure that they have best employment practices. It's a tool to push employees to improve on their performance, to clearly communicate expectations, hold employees accountable for the work they do and the work they fail to do, hold managers accountable in how they manage their employees, and it is also used by many organizations to create the metrics that tie into compensation and budgets. There's another side. Employment lawyers who represent plaintiffs use the performance evaluation process as a tool to find evidence to help prove their cases. They look at the process used in preparing and delivering employment evaluations for disparate treatment. They look for what's said and what's not said in the performance evaluation to try to find omissions that can help prove the cases. Essentially, they're looking for the absence of a paper trail to support a history of poor performance. The goals in a webinar, no, it's not a soccer game or a hockey game. The goals in this webinar is to help organizations prepare for the performance evaluation process and to look at it from the perspective of the organization, the managers, and also the employees. Understanding what people's needs are and desires are from all three perspectives will really help ensure that this process is enhanced in your company. This is a great opportunity. When you do performance evaluations, you can get employees to self-evaluate, to become reflective, to look at their own performance from an objective standpoint. You can create and develop good lines of communication between managers and employees, and also sometimes between human resources and managers. You can compare and rank the performance of the employees, which helps a great deal in preparing budgets from different departments and determining which of our employees are working at an acceptable level. And it is also a chance to rank the performance of managers. Hold managers accountable for the work that they're doing. Not all managers want to be an active or proactive manager. Sometimes managers get picked based solely, for example, on great sales numbers. Okay, your sales numbers were very high. We're going to make you a manager. But we're not sure whether or not that person actually wanted to be a manager. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe they have the skill set or desire, maybe they don't. Some managers are amiable. They don't like to say anything unpleasant to somebody. You know, they just want to go about their business, and they hope that people will simply just get the job done. Other managers don't make managing a priority. Instead, they want to do their own work. They've got their projects. They've got their deadlines. They're going to meet their deadlines, and they expect the employees working for them to meet theirs. And as a result, they neglect active or proactive management of their employees. And some managers are confrontational adverse. Instead of wanting to sit down with someone and saying, listen, I think there's a better way for you to do this. Let's sit down and come up with a plan. They put off that kind of meeting because it's unpleasant. And I think this is an opportunity in companies to make sure our managers really are doing their job. Performance and management is a 12-month-a-year process. It should never, ever come as a surprise. When an employee gets a performance evaluation that has negative content, if it comes as a surprise to the employee, that means that the company allowed that employee to underperform for a period of time. Let's suppose we have a manager who's got 10 people working for him, and these 10 people are not getting their work done on time, and the manager does not hold them accountable for that, and instead simply waits for several months for the performance evaluation process. What that means is that those 10 people are all underperforming. One, that means that it's costing more money to get the job done because we've got more people working than probably we need. Two, if we're not meeting deadlines, is it impacting the goodwill from our customers who are therefore not getting their product as fast as they should? Is it causing frustration with other employees? Maybe there's an attitude, hey, if David doesn't have to get his job done on time, why should I knock myself out? So the performance management process is not just at the time of the evaluation, it's a year-round process. There's a phrase we've probably all heard many, many times called employee engagement. Strong employee engagement basically exists when we've got employees who are very happy with or view their work positively. They view the relationship with their colleagues in a positive manner, and ultimately the relationship and the identity of the organization they work for. This results in employees having great commitment to the success of the organization. So employee management, which is what we're talking about today, is a big part of employee engagement. And culture is also a very, very important concept. And in fact, the performance evaluation is one of those times when we can have a positive impact on culture. Decide what the culture in your organization is and clearly communicate that to the employees. During the course of today's program, we're going to talk about what people do and how they do it. What they do is the work that they do. How they do it goes to the culture in the organization. Now, compensation is a difficult topic these days because many companies are having a hard time being able to continue to employ the same number of people with raises each year. And that's just the nature of the economy and the times we've been going through for the last several years. But however, there should be some way to recognize the employees who are performing well based upon their performance evaluations, whether it is a salary, a bonus, a budget, whether there's some other way, a non-monetary compensation that can be given to employees. It's critical to find a way to separate good performers from average, mediocre, or even poor performers. And again, we can recognize people based upon what they do and how they go about doing it. The performance evaluation process that we're going to talk about, first there's a self-evaluation, then there are the important aspects of performance. A review of prior goals and objectives that were set in the prior year, how we go about delivering the performance evaluation. Do we make this an interactive process? What are the plans for the upcoming year? And what are the goals and objectives for the employee in the upcoming year? The self-evaluation process is a wonderful way to get a window into the thought process of the employee. Basically, you tell the employee you need to self-evaluate certain areas of your performance from the prior year. And it forces employees to be critical of themselves. It also gets employees to reveal where they set the bar. Maybe one person has set the bar very high for herself and another employee very low. You know, which one do you want to work with? Is the person who's setting the bar high realistic? Is it, something that can be accomplished? Is the other person setting the bar too low? And we end up having a risk for malaise. We can distinguish our employees based upon how well they answer the questions in the self-evaluation. And it also lets you know whether the employees are honest with themselves. It's a great intro into how you answer questions in the evaluation and also when you have the meeting with the employee. The important aspects of performance. Every component in the performance evaluation, everything listed there should be there for a reason. Very important. There should be no waste in the performance evaluation. There's also an opportunity to base some of the criteria on not just how we get it done or what gets done, but on both. So we're letting the employee know we expect you to perform, but we expect you to do it properly. The ends do not justify the means. The categories, the categories on the performance evaluation are going to indicate the point of emphasis in the organization. Employees get a read on what matters in the company based upon what the company puts on the performance evaluation. Now, the structure on the performance evaluation should allow for comments and recommendations. Some companies rate performance evaluation on a point system or a numerical system. Others use a it does not meet, meets, exceeds expectations format. And I think that it depends a lot on, again, what you want the message to be if you're rating people based upon a numerical system or something that's a little bit more, answer-driven. But in all performance evaluations, it's very important that when the employee finishes looking at the evaluation, the employee gets the following message. This is what a successful employee in this organization looks like. I think it's critical that employees get a picture of what good performance looks like. Now, prior goals and objectives, assuming that was used in your organization in performance evaluations given in very early 2012 or late 2011, review those goals and objectives that were set and determine whether or not the employee met all of those goals and objectives. If they did meet them, wonderful. That should be noted. If they did not meet them, were they addressed at the time? Did you sit down with the employee? Did you say, you missed this objective, you missed that goal. Let's put together a plan to get you back on track. Or did you just let it ride? It's very important that we don't let it ride, and we do set a plan of action with the employee based upon a failure to meet that goal or objective. Also make sure, as an HR side, that the expectations being set by the manager are realistic. During the course of the performance evaluation and throughout the year, it's okay to give positive feedback to people. Everyone likes a compliment, so long as they feel it's sincere. It's an integral part of employee management. Hey, Julie, good job. Mary, you did a very good job on that. Mark, excellent work. I like that paper that you drafted. Recognize it during the course of the year and make it part of the employee management. Because at the same time, there's also going to be negative feedback. Nobody is perfect, and there's always room for people to improve. So if you do compliment people for good work, it's easier when you also have to call them out when the work is negative. But have a plan in how you're going to deliver negative feedback, whether it's people management or on the performance evaluation. Carefully consider the written words that are used, as well as the spoken words, because remember that lawyer who's looking to represent the employee? That lawyer is looking for a mistake to be made in how you deliver negative feedback, be it in a performance evaluation or in a meeting with an employee during the course of the year. Setting the goals and objectives in the performance evaluation. This is the opportunity that you have to clearly communicate what good performance looks like, what we expect you to do in the upcoming year. So when you create that plan and you set a goal or objective and you say, I want this process to be completed, let's say within 90 days, then we're going to work on this for the next 60 days and so on and so forth, indicate when you're going to have follow-up meetings with the employee. When you have those follow-up meetings, make sure you calendar them, make sure you hold those meetings. And if during the course of the year the goals and objectives change because of new projects that come into the department, make the employee aware of them. And since this is part of the performance evaluation, it probably should be done in writing. Now, how we deliver how we deliver the performance evaluation is also critical. Consider the goals that you have for meeting with the employee. What do you want to accomplish in this meeting? What are you looking to gain? Are you looking to gain trust? Are you looking to develop better communication? Do you already have good communication? Are you simply looking to verify good work and active management during the course of the year? Are you looking to develop this person into being a manager one day? Consider those goals. Consider the takeaways that the employee and the manager will both have from the meeting. Let's start with the manager. The manager wants to walk away from the meeting with a sense that this employee will meet the goals and objectives, will continue to improve and grow as an employee, and is committed to this organization. Is the employee realistic? Was that self-evaluation process done properly? Was the bar set in a way that it should be? Now we want the employee to have the takeaways as well. This is where your work is very good. This is where you can challenge yourself, push yourself. Maybe some training that you need. Maybe you want to make sure this employee knows that your door is always open, but the employee has never come to you with any questions. What are those takeaways? And again, the message that we want to deliver, how things are done as well as what gets done. Before you start doing the performance evaluations, is your format to lecture the employees, or do you want to have an interactive discussion with the employees? Do you give advance notice when you're going to have your meeting with the employee? Unfortunately, there are many times where employees don't get advance notice and a manager just drops by and says, okay, we're going to have the performance evaluation meeting now. Or they tell the employee, come by my office, I want to talk to you. Surprise. Is that how you want to deliver performance evaluations? Is that how you would want someone to deliver your performance evaluation? Where do you hold the meeting? Conference room, your office, the employee's office. Is anyone else going to be present in addition to you and the employee? Will you allow for interruptions during this meeting? So for example, you're in the middle of talking with the employee and you get beeped and you have a phone call regarding your social plans for the evening, and you take that phone call while you're in that meeting with the employee regarding that performance evaluation. What kind of message does that send? The length of the meeting. Is each meeting going to be the same amount of time? Are you going to have a 15-minute meeting for one person who you're not as happy with, and a half hour or 45 minutes with other people. Be consistent. The formats you use, the notice, scheduling, location, whether you'll tolerate interruptions, length of the meeting, whether it's interactive, it should be the same for all the employees that you manage. Again, the message is so important. In this organization, we recognize good performance. Subpar and even mediocre performance is not tolerated. We don't want to risk losing our good workers because the performance evaluation process does not identify the best and the brightest in the company. Now, I do want to spend some time on those legal concerns I hinted at earlier. And the areas we're going to talk about are disparate treatment, inconsistent review process, the lack of a paper trail, unreasonable expectations, and retaliation. Disparate treatment, basically, if you've got, for example, 6 people who work for one manager, 5 men, 1 woman, and the woman feels like she can't get ahead in this company, she's going to be looking for ways that she's being treated differently from the men in the department. So she's going to look at the performance evaluation, the language, the criticism, the ratings, and try to find something she can use to support her case. Disparate treatment could be unduly harsh criticism, writing her up for time and attendance when other people show up later than she does. It could be unrealistic expectations in the work that's put into the review. In any event, the way you combat that is to periodically audit the performance evaluations with managers, looking to see whether or not there's a pattern. Make sure to train the managers in how to properly complete performance evaluations so they're objective and they're consistent in rating the performance evaluations. And listen to what's going on in the departments. The inconsistent review process is one of the arguments oftentimes used by employees in employment discrimination cases. For example, the performance evaluation of one person was 5 minutes, everyone else was 45 minutes. They had notice and an opportunity to prepare for the performance evaluation. The one African American had no notice, no opportunity to prepare, and no one to talk to. The employee who knows that the work is marginal, that the days are numbered, while they're still working there, is looking to gather information to help support a claim of discrimination. And one of the things that employees do is they look for inconsistencies. Paper trails. I cannot begin to tell you how many times I've been in front of a judge in a wrongful termination case, and the judge looks at me and says, well, Mr. Gabor, why was this employee let go? He was let go because he kept showing up late for work, Judge. He routinely showed up late, and he wasn't getting the work done. Well, did he get a performance evaluation? Yes. What was the date of the performance evaluation? That would be February 1st. And what day was he let go? He was let go on Valentine's Day that year, not even 2 weeks later. And the performance evaluation, was it critical of his time and attendance? And this is where I would do my best Ralph Cramden impression from The Honeymooners, and I would say, and I quote, "Hamana, hamana, 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 hamana," because the performance evaluation does not criticize the employee for time and attendance. It said time and attendance was satisfactory. Getting the work done was fine. This particular organization did not accurately reflect its concerns about the employee and the performance evaluation. And oh, by the way, if it had been going on for months and months prior to the performance evaluation, there should have been a warning letter, some counseling, a written criticism, something to show there's a problem with this employee's performance, because that's exactly what the judge is going to ask for. And when I tell the judge there's nothing in writing to reflect dissatisfaction, the judge is going to tell your client to settle the case. Unrealistic expectations, the phrase doomed to failure. This happens when we pile the work on and we tell the one person that we want really to leave the organization because we're dissatisfied with them and we're pushing them out, or we have a manager at the very least who wants to get that person to leave, and they pile the work up. And they say, do this, do this, do this, and this person's got 55 or 60 hours of work to do in a week, and his or her colleagues have 30 hours. Make sure the expectations when the work is given out are realistic. And this is once again a time where it's good to audit the managers from time to time. That R word rears its ugly head again. I know I've talked about this in many prior programs. Retaliation. An employee who's made a complaint of discrimination and is still working for the company should have a red flag on the performance evaluation. Make sure HR carefully checks this evaluation, because this is an employee who's looking for anything he or she can use to help push the case. So it's so important to make sure that this performance evaluation is done properly. And training. Prepare the managers not just in how to fill out the performance evaluation, but how to go through the process and how to use this not just as a necessary evil that's got to be done once a year, but as part of our employee engagement, as part of our culture, as part of making sure that we're doing great work in this company and great management in this company. So we train on preparing the forms and the evaluations, the interaction between managers and employees, making sure management is a 12-month-a-year process, and making sure the process is done in an objective manner. At the end of the day, done well, we've got more powerful employee engagement. We've got employees who are productive because it's expected of them, and they know that being unproductive is not tolerated. Morale is boosted in the company. We're keeping the best employees because we're recognizing them, and we're eliminating the unproductive people. And just remember, the responsibilities of managers does not end with the completion of the last performance evaluation meeting. We have to keep it a year-round process and make sure that that line of communication between the managers and the employees is an ongoing line of communication, a positive flow of communication, as well as between the managers and HR. And the better that line of communication, the better the tools are the managers can use, then they can do their job better. And in addition to recognizing the employees who do a good job working, recognize the managers who are doing a good job as managers. And I thank you very much for attending the webinar today. I hope that you were able to pick up some ideas that you can use in your organization in going through the performance evaluation process, but also in terms of the employee management process. If you have any questions about the process at all or employee management, feel free to give me a call. And thank you again for showing up today.
Thank you, David. That was very informative, and thank you to everyone for attending this webinar. A recording will be available on the Wagner Law Group website shortly. We hope you'll be back for our next webinar, which is Preparing for the Unexpected, 10 Things Managers Need to Know. David's been answering a lot of questions from clients about steps that organizations can take in anticipation of severe storms, power failures, and other significant events. He's also been talking with clients about how employees should be paid when an organization has to unexpectedly close. As a result, he will be presenting a webinar on December 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time regarding these issues, and you'll be receiving an invitation within the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.